Welcome back, Indie Game Fanatics, to our continuing Let's Play of The Rootrees Are Dead. Just gonna jump right back into this one. We are trying to solve for who is EC. Now I was given some hints from yesterday, and I'm gonna try and pronounce this. But Annie Mowanka said that I could search for Patricia Christensen and the book that is mentioned there. Besides that, you can search for The Sweet History of Candy, Volume 1 by Charles Lee. The rest should be in diaries, and you already have a photo in your evidence, but it's tricky. I can't imagine what the photo is, but we'll look into it. Hi. We got a visitor this morning. Hi, Tokyo. Hi, hun. Alright, let's see here. So, Patricia Christensen was Elias Jr.'s wife. So let's try and... Christensen Steel. Why am I having such a hard time with it? Steel was a steel company in Butler County. On a World War II history page, you find that it contributed to the war effort of creating parts for vehicles, but after that went out of business. Christensen Steel and Patricia Christensen both are mentioned in the book review for Steamy Correspondence by Tina Angelina. Misspelled. Oh my god. Okay. So this is a book of historical letters with an erotic twist. Each letter is accompanied by context from the book's author. A letter from the book has been added to your pages. In 1934, someone who goes by Patch wrote a letter full of innuendo to an unknown gentleman, who it was clear she had romantic history with. Patch is probably short for Patricia. Is thought by the book's author to have been Patricia Christensen, a daughter of the owner of Christensen Steel. Her nickname was Pat, and were the first two letters of her last name, was known to appreciate wordplay like this. Okay. Patricia, who would have been in her mid-20s when the letter was written, was married to an older man of no notable status. This letter was most definitely not to him. There are also a few passages after the steamy bits that mention a daughter, leading Tina Angelina to theorize that this letter was written to the father of a child she hid from society in some way. So was Patricia actually married to somebody else and had an affair with Elias Jr., which resulted in Samantha Roottree, but because at the time she was married to somebody else, that's why Sam was hidden and given to this couple? The letter ends on a mention of a twisted twin that seems to evoke imagery from classic literature. Twisted twin. We had another comment yesterday as well, that EC is a twin of one of the men there. I have no idea which men possibly Elias Jr. had a twin? But why would he have been one of the 5-piece? If not for her story, yours and mine would be the most tragic tale ever told. How awful is it that such beauty was ripped from its rightful fate, and worse, sent to live in possession of your brother's twisted twin? Left an outcast, forced to a life of labor under a wicked relative. It's like something from the start of a children's fable. She deserves not the life he has been sentenced to. She deserves not the life he has been sentenced to. Oh, the daughter. I can't stand to be apart from you both. Someday I shall return to you, and I pray that he has not corrupted her to know his sins. So, from what we're aware of, John Miller is EC's spouse, and EC is a guy. So they're a gay couple. And it's talking about the corrupted her to know his sins, as in being gay, which is so stupid. I swear that on that joyous day, with all of the strength I can muster, I will fight for our children's freedom. Let us pray her fable has a happy ending. Tina has no theory for what the most cryptic parts of that mean. Okay. And then the other information given was, besides that, you can search for The Sweet History of Candy Volume 1 by Charles Lee, which I believe we've read before, but I'm not sure. Oh, I guess not. Alright. This is a book about all things candy throughout history. It starts with historical accounts dating back to ancient Egyptians and chronicles candy through the year 1924. It includes some print advertisements from companies you've heard of, including an extremely early newspaper ad for 5-pieces that Charles Lee included due to a major misprint added to evidence. Why do I feel like I've seen the name of the book before? It's probably information I took down to search later and then forgot about because we didn't get to it in that episode. We did take down Patricia Christensen. No, it doesn't look like I came across this book. Anyways. Honestly surprised there's even more evidence. I didn't think there would be. Oh. So these are the actual original flavors. Or are they different ones? You found this advertisement in Sweet History of Candy Volume 1 by Charles Lee. It's from 1924, 2 years after the debut of 5-pieces. The author included it because of the spelling error on the word available. It states that the flavors are inspired by their children, and the order go grape, elderberry, egg cream, cinnamon extract, and melon. Which is interesting because it should go elderberry, cinnamon extract, melon, and then another one. So the original 5 flavors aren't the original 5 flavors? Interesting. Yeah, see, this is the one I'm used to. I thought this was the original. E for grape, E for elderberry, C for cinnamon extract, M for melon, and M for miracle berry. Oh, this is from The Sweet History of Candy Volume 2 by Charles Lee, so that's where we came across this before. I didn't think to look for a Volume 1. It's from 6 years after the debut of 5 pieces. States the flavors are inspired by their children, and the order are this. Huh. If you're wondering why I just did that, there was a note saying that there was a picture. You already have a photo in your evidence, but it's tricky. So I was going back through all the photos looking for other faces in the images, and we found this. So that must be who EC is. The last two are optional and won't lock until you say, "I'm ready." You can summon me whenever you wish, however, this will end your search and reveal the truth, so make sure you're ready. The only thing I'm thinking of, because of the way that they name the generations, would be possibly that EC isn't Elias Jr.'s twin, but is actually Clancy Edwards' twin. Because of EC, he might be the older twin, like the twin who was born first of these two, which would explain the naming order. On here. Of egg cream before cinnamon extract. But I really want to be sure before I lock it in. We'll spend some more time, see if we can find anything else out. Let's review what I've been heard. One of the pages talks about a little girl who said her dad that she would never have to see another girl again. Yes, I got that. Sent him away to work at a farm. Dad saw him kissing another man, so he had a kid to make his dad happy. I mean, he didn't really have a kid. He took in a kid after these ones ditched their kid. Or she had a kid outside of her marriage and then married Elias Jr. later. I really don't get how this works. What happened here? Because we looked her up, and this was all we got. I figured that's too generic of a term. That's all we get mentioned from. Let's check the periodicals. Business Times. Christensen Steel was a steel company in Butler County. Business Watch mentioned them a few times, mostly around the time of World War II. It appears they went all in on the war effort and were even commended by the Vice President of the United States, who visited the factory in person. An article from about 4 years after the war ended said that the expansions and modifications they made to the factory were no longer sustainable during peacetime, and the company was being sold. Nothing stands out. Christensen Steel was a steel company in the early 1900s. You find a few mentions in the Butler County Times. Some are old birth announcements in the Butler County Times from the then owner, Mathis Christensen. The only name that looks familiar is Patricia Christensen, the third of his 4 children, who was born in 1908. There was a front page article in 1944 stating that the Vice President of the United States stopped by to visit the factory tour. The company stopped being advertised around 1949. Around the time, there was a blurb saying that Mathis was stepping down and attempting to sell the company. Nothing relevant. Nothing relevant. So unfortunately, that seems to be all we can learn about Christensen Steel. Alright. So, it looks like no matter what, they want you to take a gamble. My best guess is it's... Is that E.C. Roottree, twin brother of Clancy's, who was gay, and so he kind of got like disowned from the family, essentially, but stuck around as a farmhand. Ended up with John Miller, who was the guy that he got found out being with, and ended up adopting Samantha Roottree when these two abandoned her. And then eventually she became the farmer, or the one in charge of the farms, the maple farms that make Roottree candy, and wasn't allowed any inheritance or any of the money from the trust, from the Clancy Trust. But yeah. Alright. Let's wish me luck. Why is it gotta do this? Make me click twice. The final optional entries you found. Alright, so these are the images. Number of optional entries left for next time, 8. Those are all just spouse names that I never found. Wait, so Mr. Miller didn't lock in?
So, you thought E.C. was Edward Clancy Roottree, and his partner was John Miller? That's exactly what I needed to hear.
Okay. But why didn't it lock in Mr. Miller's name?
I'm Sam Madsen, though you know me
as
Samantha Roottree. Yep, I got old. The only picture you have of me is from 40 years ago.
So this wasn't who I thought it was.
The truth about Elias, the 5 pieces, and my parents. Not my biological parents, Elias Jr. and Patsy. My fathers, Edward Clancy Roottree and John Miller. By now, you've either read Lorne's diaries.
Yeah, I thought you were
just
Lorne.
An incredible guesser. Lorne was right. I hated the 5 pieces. She just didn't know my full reasoning.
Yeah. Because you got basically ditched by your own parents.
My father, Edward Clancy, was a great man. But his identical twin Clancy and his father, Elias, were not. At age 16, my father was caught kissing a farmhand.
Yeah.
Back then, they wouldn't even acknowledge gay people existed. Having one in the family was unthinkable.
Which is really weird if you think about throughout history how many there's been. Like,
the same year, I was born. A bastard granddaughter. 2 stains on Elias's perfect family. He decided to fix both.
a bastard granddaughter because she was born out of wedlock, I'm guessing. So Elias Jr. wasn't actually married to Patricia at the time that she had a kid, had Sam.
They tried to erase Edward Clancy. They even removed his 5 Pieces flavor. His name was deemed a dirty word. He became EC.
That's ridiculous.
We were sent to the farm, and the 5 Pieces did their best to keep the next generation away, to isolate me from family.
Yeah. So, this has been a really interesting puzzle game. I've very much enjoyed this. There were certainly parts that I've struggled with figuring out. I imagine if I had played it differently, like done longer sessions, it might have been a bit easier. But unfortunately, I don't have that kind of time, and so we did it quickly. So I know I occasionally would glaze or miss things that might have helped out a bit more. But wow, this just tells you that even the most successful families can have dark secrets.
But Elias couldn't erase us from existence. Laura never realized I was the little girl from her diary.
Man, new girl who I did not like, she said, "Your pop is my dad."
Who could blame me for being so confused that day? Her father was an exact copy of mine, except without the beard.
Because they're twins.
And while the 5 Pieces celebrated a new factory, farmhands did the real work. It's a fluke there's a picture of my father at all, but there he is in the background, the 6th 5 Piece. Patsy returned, and things got complicated for Elias. She fought for my freedom from a life she deemed unworthy.
Interesting. That her mother would eventually come around to fighting for her?
Elias relented, so long as I never learned the truth or receive inheritance. They knew I'd help my father.
Help him how, though? But yeah, they made it so that she wouldn't get any inheritance. But what about her children's children?
At Elias's will reading, I learned part of the truth. The rest I learned at home. I began to hate the 5 Pieces.
She'd been told her parents died?
My father made me stay silent. He was worried history would repeat, and that his grandchildren would become outcasts.
So, she didn't know that Patricia and Elias Jr. were actually her parents? They kept that from her? For her entire childhood? That's insane.
His fears weren't unfounded. As you know, my son Ernie died a few years ago. He had trained to take over as president.
Yeah. Which does bring up suspicion, because she was basically disinherited, yet her son was going to be president of the company. Like, he doesn't earn a salary, but his income would have been tied to inheritance.
But due to family politics, or perhaps hubris, it went to Guy. A real Roottrie. He nearly ruined the company.
Guy is new to the business world, but he is family. There are rumors that Ernest had originally trained to succeed Zach Morton, but had been passed up for unspecified reasons. And that's why he ended up becoming the president after Guy instead.
When Ernie took over, he saved the operation. Over 13 years, he made the family billions.
Damn. Ernie Jr. spearheaded the formation of Root.
Ernie earned about $36. They got by on Debbie's salary, but when he fell ill, he couldn't pay his medical bills.
Oh,
His
jeez.
death was my tipping point.
But then Carl's mother or wife, Debbie, I can't remember, Debbie, something like that. I think it was Carl who became the next president afterwards, is the one who helped them out.
Originally, my book was meant to expose Elias's hypocrisy. Until I started to look into the other dirty laundry.
Yeah, about the RR Productions. Television screenwriter Robbie Roottree was allegedly quietly tried and convicted. The name Robert Roottree. Yeah, Robert embezzled from his brother's company.
Ron tried to have Robbie removed from the trust, but couldn't. Robbie was a blood relative, even out of wedlock.
Wait. What? So, if they couldn't have him removed, why the hell would Sam have been removed from the trust? She is a blood relative. So she should have received inheritance. That's why she's having us look into the family tree and solving all of this.
That sounded familiar. The Clancid Trust that Elias established was designed to secure his family's future. His entire family's future. He couldn't write exceptions in without the whole thing falling apart.
Yeah, except that they tried to make an exception with Sam and her descendants. Due to ironclad writing of the trust, it was impossible to remove any direct descendants of Elias Roottree
My
without
book
completely.
Can definitively prove that Elias was not the paragon of virtue he's heralded as.
Yeah, no, he wasn't.
And that my daughter and granddaughters are just as much family, at least in the eyes of the trust, as anyone else.
Yep. They deserve the money.
The Clancid Trust will secure their future. They can decide what to do with their shares. But I'm old, and I'm not in it for the money.
Wow. She's accepted what happened to her. Isn't being greedy about it. She's fighting for the younger generation to get their share.
The truth has been eating away at me for years. But now, I can set the record straight. Thanks to you. As someone who enjoys searching for the truth, you might understand the power it has.
Yeah, that was actually really cool.
Whitewashing the past to protect the status quo can lead to repercussions in the present and future.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. You knocked it out of the park. With your expert work, the truth will come to light. And when it does, my share of the Clancid Trust is yours.
Oh, damn.
Like I said at the beginning, set for life.
So she did it to get her younger generation paid, and she, instead of her getting her share of the trust, she's giving it to us as the ones who figured this out. That's really cool.
Looking at the family tree on your wall, now with my father's, everything finally feels complete. Unless a whole lot more root trees somehow appear from thin air, this is the last time I'll come knocking. Thanks again, and so long.
Unless a lot of Roottrees appear from thin air. Please don't tell me that's what Roottree Mania is. Mixed reviews. Life went on and a new president took over the company. The Roottree family faded from the news cycle. Then everything changed. There's another mystery to solve. Roottree Mania is now unlocked as a new game. I'm a secret Roottree. We're working on something new. Join our mailing list. Ooh.
Hi.
Clark Rafferty? Okay. I think I'm going to end up treating this as a separate... I mean, I got to go anyways, so I'm not going to start a whole new game right now. But I guess I'm going to treat this as a separate game. Yeah. So that's going to be it for the Rootrees Are Dead. Next up, we're going to play Roottree Mania. Yeah. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you all have enjoyed. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you to the person who had suggested this game. You know who you are. I really appreciate it. I've already asked in a post on the channel, but if there is any games that you would like to recommend for me to play as Let's Play series in the future, please let me know either in that post or in the comments down below of this video. Yeah. I hope you all have a good one, and I will see you again tomorrow.